The 911 call came in at 2:17 a.m. from a quiet suburban house where nothing was supposed to ever happen. The caller whispered that the house was changing, and within minutes, police would arrive expecting a routine welfare check. The neighborhood was known for being calm. Families lived their lives in predictable patterns, lights off by 10 p.m. The caller's voice was unstable, not screaming, not crying, just disturbed in a way that didn't fit normal panic. The caller repeatedly insisted that the house was not staying the same, as if it was behaving like a living thing. When the officers arrived, everything outside looked normal. No broken windows, no signs of forced entry. The officers approached cautiously and attempted to make contact by knocking. There was no immediate response. That's when the door slowly opened. No one was visibly standing there. At first glance, the home appeared ordinary. Furniture in place, family photos on the walls. A typical living room setup. But as they moved deeper inside, they noticed something. The layout didn't seem to fully match the exterior dimensions. One officer radioed in to confirm the address. Still, something didn't add up. Instead, faint sounds were heard from deeper inside, soft, irregular noises that didn't match footsteps or typical activity. As they moved forward, the temperature began to fluctuate. Certain parts felt warmer, others noticeably colder. The appliances were familiar, yet the arrangement felt altered, as if someone had rearranged reality without moving the objects. A hallway that had been passed earlier appeared again, but from a different direction. The radio began to crackle slightly, though there was no reported interference outside the house. Doors that had already been passed were now appearing closed when they were previously open. Their footprints left behind moments earlier were no longer consistent. Some appeared partially faded, others slightly shifted. There, standing in partial shadow, was a figure. It didn't move, it didn't respond. The hallway lights flickered just once. And when they stabilized again, the figure was gone. The hallway was longer now. And there was another door at the end that had not been there before. Inside the house, silence returned, but it felt deeper, heavier, as if the structure itself was aware of their presence. It wasn't a voice, it wasn't an object, it was something that felt like the house itself shifting again. The sound behind them wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made both officers freeze instinctively. It didn't resemble footsteps, voices, or anything human. It was more like the house itself adjusting, reshaping in real time. As if the structure had decided to acknowledge their presence, they turned slowly. Nothing was there. But the hallway they had just come through was no longer the same. The angles felt wrong again. The walls seemed slightly closer, then farther, like the space was breathing. The officers exchanged a glance, both realizing they were no longer dealing with a normal residential environment. One of them keyed the radio again. The connection was unstable. Dispatch came through in fragments, distorted and broken, as if distance no longer mattered in a consistent way. They decided to move back toward the entry point. That decision, however, created the first major contradiction. The hallway behind them did not lead backward anymore. It extended forward. Rooms they had already cleared were no longer accessible the same way. Doors that had been open were now closed, and doors that had been closed were now absent entirely. The house no longer maintained a fixed structure. It behaved like a shifting layout that refused to remain consistent. One officer quietly admitted the impossible conclusion forming in his mind. They were no longer navigating a building in the traditional sense. They were inside something unstable. As they advanced cautiously, they began noticing another disturbing pattern. The house wasn't just changing layout, it was repeating itself in altered versions. The same furniture appeared in different rooms. The same hallway reappeared at different angles. Even family photos on the wall seemed to subtly change expressions when looked at twice. Then came the discovery that shifted everything. A small recording device was found on a hallway floor. It was still running, the audio contained faint breathing, and a whispering voice repeating the same phrase. "I called because it started happening again." The officers immediately recognized the implication. This was the 911 caller's last known trace, and it confirmed something far more serious. The caller was still inside, or had been. Because time inside the house did not seem to behave normally, it was impossible to determine how long ago that recording had been made. The officers attempted to trace the source of the sound, but the house interfered with spatial orientation. Every time they tried to isolate a direction, the environment shifted slightly, making certainty impossible. Then unexpectedly, a door ahead of them opened on its own. No force, no sound, just a slow, deliberate movement. Inside was a room that felt different from the rest of the house. The lighting was steadier, the air felt less distorted. For the first time since entering, there was a sense of stability. But it was not comfort, it was containment. The room contained objects that didn't match the rest of the house's design. Old equipment, notes scattered across the table, and markings on the walls that looked like repeated attempts to map something that could not be mapped. One officer picked up a page. It contained sketches of the same house layout, but each version was different. Hallways looped into themselves in impossible geometry. The words written alongside the diagrams repeated a single warning. The house resets when observed too long. Before they could fully process it, a sound echoed from deeper inside. A faint voice, not from outside, from within the structure itself. It was the same voice from the 911 call. "I'm still here." The officers turned immediately toward the sound source, but there was no visible person. Instead, the voice seemed to come from multiple directions at once, as if the walls themselves were speaking. The radio suddenly came back to life, but not with dispatch audio. It played a fragment of the original 911 call, only this time, it was clearer than before. The caller was not just reporting something wrong, they were describing cycles, repetitions, moments where the house restarts and everything inside shifts again. Except the person trapped inside never fully leaves the structure. One officer stepped toward the wall instinctively, placing a hand on it. The surface felt normal at first, then it subtly shifted under his hand like a surface that remembered touch. That's when the second officer noticed something that made his voice drop completely. Their entry point, the front door they had used to come inside, was gone. In its place was another hallway, identical but not the same. And at the far end of it stood a silhouette. This time, it didn't disappear. It slowly turned its head toward them. And the voice from the walls repeated once more, "You shouldn't have come back in." The voice from the walls repeated again, but softer now, almost exhausted, "You shouldn't have come back in." That's when both officers understood the terrifying pattern. This wasn't just a shifting house, it was a loop. Dispatch answered, but the response didn't sound current. It sounded delayed, as if it was coming from another version of time. When they gave their location, dispatch responded with confusion. The unit had already cleared that address nearly an hour earlier. But that was impossible. They were still inside. Or at least they thought they were. And the caller wasn't simply trapped inside the house. They were trapped inside a repeating version of it. The house didn't just contain people, it reused them. The officer closest to the wall suddenly noticed something horrifying in the reflection of a framed photo nearby. both officers spun around. And there standing just a few feet away was a person, weak, pale, disoriented, the 911 caller. The caller spoke faster now. It uses attention as a trigger. If you focus too long, it resets the structure completely. Then everything began to distort again. Hallways overlapping, doors reappearing. Lights flickering through impossible positions, the caller grabbed the officer's arm. There's only one way out during a stable overlap. When the house forgets you, for the house to forget them. They had to stop being part of its observation loop, stop reacting, stop acknowledging.